Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having
Yeah,
me
thanks.
here.
Welcome back, everybody.
Oh, thank you.
I feel it's not quite a couch, but
Yeah, it's close to it.
This works, right?
Close to it.
So Rohit, thanks for joining us. My understanding is that this is kind of one of your first times talking externally. That you haven't talked much publicly about what you're doing. Is there a reason why you're hiding, or why you're coming out now?
So we were mostly building for 3 years.
Yeah.
So I've been in Amazon for 3 years, and we're building the team, building the technology, and we're very, very excited about what we've achieved, and now we're talking about it. So yes,
Great.
This is the first time I'm talking in this big a forum for Alexa.
Great, it's a pleasure to have you, and Alexa's been mentioned several times over the course of yesterday, so it's great to actually have you here and defend yourself against the critics, but maybe to pour some more stuff on for those who see how well you're doing. I was just at the Botness event, must have been just a month ago, right? So it was one of the first significant events of Slack, Microsoft, and Kik, I think, were behind putting it together. I don't know how many people were there at Botness. About 110 people there, and because I mean, this is one of the first significant events around bots that we put on. So I wanted to make sure I was watching, and there was all this criticism from developers about Amazon just being a closed system, and then all of a sudden, 3 weeks ago, you created the skill sets, and so I just checked in with Amir at Slack, and he's saying there's now very little criticism. Can you talk about how Alexa is doing in the developer community and your perspective? Right?
So sure. First, Alexa, June marked our first year of anniversary of general availability of Alexa as an Amazon Echo.
Yeah.
And also the 2 APIs that came for developers, we had done it as developer preview in June of last year. So that marked 1-year anniversary just last month. And now we have 1,500 skills that are built on Alexa by developers, by thousands of developers developing on it every day. Yeah. It's completely open. We have essentially 2 APIs. One is called the Alexa Voice Service, which lets you integrate Alexa in any of your devices, any of your applications. And the second API is the Alexa Skills Kit that lets you add new skills to Alexa that you care about as a developer. So it's completely open, and we are now getting, initially we were in the developer preview because we wanted to get feedback from the developers in terms of how they are doing, what we can improve at our own end, because AI as an SDK is what Alexa Skills Kit is about, and that's a very hard problem. And we got early feedback, and now developers are building at a much faster rate. We are now crossed 1,500 skills, close to 1,600, and that's like hundreds of skills are being built every week.
Yeah.
That we are not touching as a first party. They are building it themselves. The third-party developers are building completely on their own.
Yeah, that's right. And I want to get to other components of AI as the description build, but and there's a lot of AI behind what we're talking about already. Can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing, any updates on specifics in terms of skill sets that maybe surprised you, or in terms of traction? I mean, we're well aware of music and entertainment, controlling your home with lighting, and other aspects, but what other things are you seeing?
Yeah, I would say personally, the smart home has been the biggest delighter in terms of it is amazing to be able to control every connected device that you have in home. And right now we have the lighting and thermostat, and you actually, if you're a developer, you can plug into the lighting and thermostat kits right away, and they are very easy to use. You're consuming directives, and you don't have to build much around the intent side of things. So that has been both a pretty great delighter. It's one of the best ways to interact with everything that's connected in your house, and that's been, I would say, the biggest delighter of that part.
Great. So you mentioned completely open. So I want to make sure I challenge you there a little bit, because at some point, right? Because I think that the current analogy is Android and Google, right? So they'll say they're open, right? But at some point, Google has to benefit somehow through Android on mobile devices, right? And I would imagine at some point there's a stopping point to how open you can be, right? If I wanted to set a default for shopping at, let's say, Walmart, would you allow that? If the consumer wanted to do that, for example, would you go there?
Well, I can't. I mean, I personally haven't thought that far.
Yeah.
But from that point of view, I think we already give a lot of control for the user. we care most about our end customers. So we'll make most decisions by what value our customers are deriving, and are we doing the right thing around that. Like right now, you already have multiple options on the music services. We have our own Prime Music, but you can select Pandora or Spotify as your default as well. So those are the aspects that we will do what's right for the customers.
That's right. Great. Can you talk briefly about your thoughts on the leading applications for AI in general? There's a widespread audience here: developers, product folks, marketers even. And we've had some pretty deep conversations around AI and machine learning in some panels. But can you talk about what personally interests you in terms of leading AI applications in machine learning, since you're the guy at Amazon that does that?
So super exciting. Like, first of all, if you have kids who are getting close to choosing a major, make them choose machine learning because it's such an exciting times. As Jeff said in his Code Conference interview as well, that we totally believe this is the golden era coming. Now, I've personally been in speech for a long time, and it was always the future. Now I can say it's the present. We are here. Alexa is a great example where conversational AI is becoming mainstream. Personally, I also feel like if you, as a developer or as a consumer, if you access any kind of data, unstructured or structured, then you will be using AI in one form or the other for your own benefits. So this is great for consumers, great for researchers like me, and so it's absolutely the best time, and so much excitement on conversational AI itself. It's great to see. It's like the moment we had been waiting for in the community for a long, long time.
Yeah. So specifically in the area of speech science, can you talk a little bit about how that works and what's interesting you specifically in that area?
Sure. First of all, if you have an Echo, I hope, how many of you have an Echo? Okay, so that's pretty good. So from that point of view, if you think about Echo, the very first problem is to make sure that it wakes up when you say the wake word, and it doesn't wake up when you say something similar. Like if you said Alec, it shouldn't wake up because it's trying to listen to Alexa. So that's the first hardest problem, where we don't think of it that when we are in the homes, but there's tons of noise sources within the home, including your own kids, who are at times a source of noise. So if you're like my house, there will be competing speech coming for Alexa. So it's a super hard problem in terms of identifying who is trying to speak to the device. Where is the target speaker, and so that you can enhance the signal for that target speaker and attenuate every noise that's coming towards the device. So that's the first step, and we have done a bunch of signal processing and machine learning to make that work very well, to detect the wake word with high accuracy. Once Alexa hears the wake word, it starts streaming to the cloud. And in the cloud, then we have to understand what words are being spoken and what do they mean. And then take an action on the behalf of the user, which turns out it's a non-trivial task. We don't think of it that easily. But if I said play Hunger Games to Alexa, and Alexa is on Echo and Alexa is on Fire TV, Hunger Games on Fire TV should bias towards the movie Hunger Games rather than playing an audiobook on your Fire TV, whereas on an Echo, which doesn't have a screen, it should default to playing probably the book you own. Yeah. So that's something to keep in mind, and just the amount of context in terms of understanding that what all Hunger Games means, and then based on what the device Alexa is on, what action to take is a non-trivial problem, and something that every step has to be, it's a deep parsing of the intent and taking an action, and then making sure you do the right thing for the user. Mm-hmm.
Could you give us some insights into where you see the biggest challenges? Like maybe some of the things you think you're doing right, but then what you're not doing right so far, like some of the challenge areas.
So fortunately, we are learning a lot, right? So which is like we have had this the Alexa family out for all, November 2014 is when we launched. So we've learned a ton. We have tons of data of interactions that is clearly a big advantage in this field. Yeah. And one area where we are still learning is that users react very differently to things. So for instance, I'll give you an example. We had in the smart home space, when you're controlling your lights or a garage door, you will get a prompt. We used to say, if you said turn off the lights, we'll play a prompt. Okay. We decided at one point to take that prompt out. And that was like, users hated it. Why? Because they wanted that reassurance that Alexa took an action when I spoke, and it did accomplish the action that was directed towards Alexa. And then we brought it back, but it was one of the learning that we had in terms of we want Alexa to be quite frugal in how it talks to you in terms of the number of words and what actions it takes. It should be magical for you. But that was a place where more reassurance was needed, and we learned that. Another example I would say was also where we launched Echo Dot, which is a smaller version of Echo. And that allows you to connect with other third-party Bluetooth speakers, or any speaker you have, which is maybe much higher wattage, higher quality that you wanted to use for if you're a great music lover. And that was something we learned from our users base, saying that, hey, we love Echo, but what if it could connect to, what if you had another device which could just connect to my speaker I already love? So that was something that we learned along the way and built something very quickly, and now users are enjoying that as well.
Great. Yeah, so thanks for walking us through some of those specifics on the challenges you're seeing. So we actually ran a guest post recently that talked about the chances for a super bot, right? And actually we've heard from various folks that are suggesting that Amazon actually might be able to give us a super bot, right? Be able to talk in natural language to something that actually understands everything that we're saying and all of our needs. But we keep hearing that that's a huge problem, to actually have broad understanding of natural language processing, right? Because I mean, even Watson, who's had 2 decades of experience in terms of its iterations, has a problem with that. Because we've heard from Booking.com that they couldn't rely on a general natural language processing API, that they actually had to go directly into specific travel questions. And we've heard that from multiple sectors, that they have to go deep because they can't rely on any general NLP. Can you talk a little bit about whether you actually aspire to be a super bot, or whether you're going to have to continue with these kind of complicated instruction sets, right? And I think, just to finish this long question off, we heard some snippets from maybe the Google folks saying, hey, we don't think you need an instruction, you shouldn't need an instruction guide for home. And we'll see what Google comes up with. But can you talk about that challenge of being that super bot?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't go into what we aspire into, but definitely in terms of Alexa is already, if you think about it, is a bot of bots. The media of speech is, media of interaction with the AI agents is speech in this case. But if you think about, you already have a bunch of skills that have either similar functionality or the same functionality. Like you have Uber writing a skill, Lyft writing a skill, and right now it's true that you have to direct the intent specifically to saying, ask Uber to order me a cab. And you can say, ask Lyft to order a cab, so in the similar vein. As we learn and as other services come on board, this problem is going to just get harder and harder. And we already have approaches for how we could make it magical for end customers and also preserve the service branding, which people do care about. I mean, if Uber and Lyft are writing skills, they do care about that the traffic be directed to them when the user is looking to interact with their skills. Hard problem, but something that we believe we have a head start on, and we are working aggressively towards.
Great. Yeah, and as we were talking before, you mentioned something that you hadn't shared publicly yet, but that you're prepared to share now, which is that you've kind of reduced the failure rate of a goal, spoken goal, by 2x over the last year. Can you talk a little bit about what specifically you mean by that?
Right. So what we mean is, when you direct any intent to Alexa, let's say you wanted to play a particular song, we measure quite closely how well we are doing in terms of accomplishing that task on the behalf of the user or the customer in this case. And we want to know, so we monitor that quite carefully, and we have seen that we used to fail by an X amount when we launched, and now we fail by half that amount, which is a huge reduction in what we think of as error rate. And so that tells, we made a promise to our customers that we'll keep improving our system, and that's we have lived up to that promise. At the same time, we have added many functionalities, new skills to Alexa over time, including first-party and third-party build. So that problem just it tells you the order of magnitude of improvements that has happened since launch. And that's the most quantitative number I can share right now.
Okay, great. And on the same theme of general NLP prowess. Again, so yesterday, many of you heard Pat AI talking about how none of these platforms are built for the long haul in terms of natural language processing, right? I don't know if you remember Pat AI or in SoundHound saying, hey, you've got to build for the long haul, and that 2 years from now we'll see this is a house of cards from Amazon and others. Can you talk a little bit about the foundation you've built and maybe how confident you are and what you're doing to maybe to rehaul now that you have the lead, right? And you don't want to give that lead up in terms of NLP.
Yeah. So I will, again, we always make decisions in Amazon for the long term. Like we work, we have a long-term vision about Alexa. This is just the start, as we still call it the day one. But we built a lot of design decisions we made from very day one is to be robust for the long haul in terms of entire architecture around how natural language understanding happens. Like before, in the field, primarily the emphasis was on rules. We use statistical modeling techniques that are robust to noise and data as it comes in terms of adding many more intents, because you can't really maintain rules at that scale. So this is conscious choices made in terms of more statistical techniques in natural language understanding. We have a multi-domain system. They're not, many of these bots tend to be domain specific, and the boundary of domains is a bit fuzzy. You can start having a dialogue about movies, but then you have a question about an actor. So from that point of view, we have architected our system to be robust to having more multiple domains active in parallel, and so that we can disambiguate what the user is looking for with the least amount of friction. That's how the system is architected at our end.
Great. Can you talk a little bit about one of your areas of specialty, machine learning? Yeah. Because I think there's the data that you're compiling on aggregate by just being the leader in terms of having home devices out there. And we've seen various numbers, and I know you aren't substantiating those numbers, right? 3 million or whatever it is. And by the way, congratulations on your news this morning. We actually, I think we publishing the news that you sold 2.5x the number of Echoes you did last year. Just the record on Prime Day yesterday, right?
Yeah, Prime Day was our best sales day for Echo as well, among other things. So it was clearly, we thanks to our customers, they have received Echo very, very well. We also, a couple of other things we did was on Prime Day was also that we had voice-enabled shopping as well. So there were Alexa exclusive deals, plus you could have ordered by voice. And that also went extremely well in terms of, this was like the first major proof of shopping being done by voice. And I myself ordered a drone and a Roomba just by voice. And I'm not big at shopping myself. My wife owns that in my household. But that was the most seamless experience I had in shopping. And if you haven't tried it, I'll encourage you to try that as well. So yes, and in terms of machine learning, go ahead.
No, that's right. Yes. So in terms of the machine learning, sorry, I got distracted by that news. You have the external, sort of the aggregate data, but you also have the machine learning on somebody individually. Can you talk a little bit about maybe the lead you've had, which is where I was going, on data, how much advantage that's given you versus some of the competitors, and then maybe we can come back to the personal machine learning as well.
So first, like if you think, for any machine learning task, there are 3 ingredients. One is you need to have the right data. The second is in terms of you must have the best of breed algorithms that can run extremely fast, especially for whenever you're interacting with an AI agent, speed matters. And for that, you have to do inferences and predictions very, very fast. The third step is essentially you need to have, just like you were asking, like how much we've cut failure rates. To do that, you must have the way of learning fast on data with an infrastructure that scales that well. And we've built all that. And what we also do, like if you have your own personalized song content that you upload, we have ways of knowing that how often you use it so that we can make it better for you. When you give an ambiguous query of play the Stones, we should be able to play the song you most often play through Echo, for instance. Similarly, in terms of one of the things that we had on shopping was to be able to reorder what you've ordered in the past. Again, that's some data that we have, and we can use that to make it magical for you when you say just reorder pencils. Like you've been very ambiguous about it, and yet we are able to take a very specific action because you had ordered a particular type of pencils in the past.
Okay, great. So on a panel yesterday, we were talking about there was a conclusion on the panelists, if you were watching Robert Hoffer's session on design, that the high-level mark for natural language understanding was about 88%, and I think Amazon was used as the company. But there's all these papers that are being published about how much, what is the high-level mark for natural language understanding. But the comment was made that, I think from Robert, that in conclusion that Amazon understood about 88%. And I know we were talking earlier that you're not going there in terms of the general bot, in terms of general natural language understanding, but could you talk specifically about where the critical mark is for understanding certain commands?
Yeah, I think the key thing is that there's no one-size-fits-all. Yeah. Like, it depends on the kinds of tasks. Like, if you think about, if you say, Alexa, stop, that you want to work 100% of the time or close to 100% of the time. So that's very command and control, versus something where you're doing music discovery, there's a higher tolerance for error rates. Of course, as a scientist, we would like to get to that magical bar of being very high, but there is no one-size-fits-all. And I think the key thing is how much feature, and it also depends on how rich the feature set is. So that goes into, like, if you are just handling simple requests, then even if you're 100% accurate, it doesn't make it magical for the end users. So I would stay away from thinking about it as one absolute bar you have to hit.
Yeah, great. Well, I could keep asking questions. We just blew through 20 minutes. I can't believe it. It happened so quickly. But Rohit, we hope we can have you back next year. You've got an amazing lead already, so congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.